Hello YouTube, and today we're looking at this Fender Mexi Tele. Now this belongs to my friend Steve, who plays in the band Graves down in London. They're kind of a gothy punk band. I really recommend you check them out. I'll leave a link down in the description. If you've seen the SG I did, the Worn Brown Epiphone SG, I sold that to my friend Jazz, who plays guitar and also sings in Graves. So this is the other Graves guitar. The problems I noticed with this, because I've played it a couple of times, is the truss rod was really tight. The neck was too straight, so admittedly I've given it a tiny tweak off camera. The neck pickup was just sunken in this side. Again, I just used a screwdriver and just raised it up because it was really bugging me. I believe he's having problems with the input jack, so we're going to test that out. When I've played through his rig, it sounded quite... almost like the pickups were wired in parallel. I mean, they're quite bitey, so I'm not quite sure if they're wired right. They probably are, and it's probably just the weird amp on the day, because I don't remember what amp it was, but I've not used one of those before. So, yeah, volume, tone, coil tap, lovely. Big fan of coil taps. See, Fender standard Mexican style tuners are the same ones that come on the Mexican Strats, and I believe the same ones that come on the standard Strat. Either way, they look the same. And there you go. I'm going to guess the finish is poly. It doesn't smell sweet like nitro. And it appears to be coming off in chunks in the same way that poly does. Three-way switch, which has lost its tip. I might put a Strat one on there because that's all I've got. And there you go. So, I'm going to plug into my little MG, little Marshall MG series down the side, and we're going to see if she even makes noise. Personally, I think the bridge pickup could stand to come up a little bit. It doesn't sound quite balanced. But do you know what? The volume control doesn't have any scratchiness in it. It's just... And the switch doesn't cough, which is great, you know. Tone. No coughs on the controls, so can't fault it there at all. But I'm going to raise this bridge pickup slightly. I don't like raising pickups too much. I think there seems to be a spot where you get a decent amount of output out of it, and it kind of chirps, and then after that it's almost like there's too much compression and it's a little bit overbearing. Let's try that. Try the lead. Not bad at all. These pickups are quite spiky. I I don't know if it's high output or not. I'll turn the gain right down just so it just coughs into life. So there you go. I quite like the neck pickup, but the bridge pickup's a little bit weak sounding, very thin. So I'm just gonna see if we can get the output about the same. The jack socket doesn't feel too bad. It feels a little bit loose, but I'll probably just have a look inside and see if the shaft needs bending over slightly where it connects with the jack. See if you can see the action. Very low action on this, and the neck is very straight. And again, I've loosened it a little bit just to give it a bit of relief, because Steve did complain of a little bit of fret buzz, and I do think it's helped. It's still a little bit buzzy, so I might give it a slight tweak more, but really not a lot. Come on. Might have to loosen off the D and the G to get them out of the way. Right, so this is loosey, so it's this way. It's ever so slightly, boop, just that, just a slight. I only want to slightly tweak it. I only want about a quarter turn each time you tweak it, and then leave it to settle, retune. Well, it is a humbucker. Well, it is humbucker mode, it's just quite bright. Okay, so let's have a look at the jack socket now. Everything seems to work on it. Is there a back plate? There isn't even a back plate, it's just a control plate. Okay. That's fine. So you don't get this through the arse, get it through these screws. So take the front off. As this is a Fender, it's going to be a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is broke, I'm going to try and repair it rather than replace parts, if it makes more sense to do that. I mean, obviously, if the jack socket, for example, is old and worn and knackered, or the switch will be old and worn and knackered, it's perfectly fine, then it would be worth replacing. And what do we have in here? So you can see the electronics in here, and you've got the actually quite nice quality switch. The pot appears to be alpha, which is this, what does it say? Something made, I don't know. Yeah, it looks like an alpha to me. So that's an alpha, and this will be an alpha, the push-pull. And they're the cheap sort of pots you get on PRS SEs and Epiphones and hundreds of relatively inexpensive guitars. I mean, so if you bought a standard USA Fender, you're more likely to get CTS or Bourne's pots and orange drop cap and all that. What we have here, that's quite a nice switch actually, the same sort of switch will be used. But what we have here is cheaper capacitors. There we go. Okay. Right, here we go. So this is an unbranded jack socket. It's quite light in colour. It appears to be fairly worn. If you look at the angle, that's quite it should be more of an extreme angle, sort of more in. So I've got the end here, and what I'm doing is going to bend it over a bit more. And this is what a jack looks like from the inside. So you've got a guitar lead, a jack socket, and it comes through, and you'll see it go past. So you see, and that bit is touching the shaft there, which is the ground, and the plastic bit, which is separates it, and the tip is hot, which is what touches that. And to be perfectly honest, it's still quite worn, so I'm going to bend it out a little bit, because I don't think it quite needs replacing yet. I mean, it seems, yeah, I know it's serviceable, but there we go. So I've just made the angle a little bit more. So I've made it a little bit more, so it connects more. Oh my god, that's better. That's bent over and put back in. There should be a little dish that goes in there, I think. I'm not really familiar with tellies. I haven't owned any because I can't bloody stand the shape myself. But there you go. It's in there, and it ain't going anywhere, and it's more secure than it was before. The capacitor on this looks like, what is it? One of these disc ceramic ones. Can see the cheap ceramic disc capacitor. And I've not seen one like that before. I'm going to leave it alone because it's a stock one. If it was one of those cheap little green ones like you get in Epiphones, like you've seen in my other videos, I'd have pulled it straight out because they're awful. They're horrible ceramic ones. They, I find they really tend to strangle the pickups. I don't know what it is, and it was put there by Fender, so I'm going to obviously leave it alone. And there we go. There we go. There's also a grub screw missing from the bridge, but I'm afraid I don't even have any spare. But it's not causing him any problems, so I'll just leave it as is. Neck's nice and satin. There's actually no dinks or dents on the back of this. In fact, it's the only part of the guitar that doesn't seem to have any dinks or dents on it. But it's perfectly fine. One thing we'll do is see the little screws on the end there. The more tight they are, the more resistance they seem to give when you turn them. So don't over tighten them. And if you do it too much, there'll be too much resistance, and they'll be really annoying to turn. It'll take ages to tune your guitar. But doing a little bit, I find, does help tuning. I've checked the nut before, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The way to do that is just to slacken off the string and then pull it up and feel if it catches in the nut or not. In this case it doesn't. I've tried that with all 6 strings, it was perfectly fine. And there we have it. So it's the jack socket better? Yes, that feels more solid now. Before it felt like it was going to come out, and now it doesn't. So job's a good one. Check the intonation, but it should be fine. So I'll set that, so I'm going to have to move the saddle slightly back, so hang on. Move that slightly back. you have to retune, because as you pull the saddle back, it basically pulls the string sharp. That's sharp, so move the saddle backwards, which effectively makes the string longer. A little bit much still. Now, I believe this guitar was going to be set up for 10 to 46, but last time Steve needed new strings, I was just out in town and he texted me and my mate Jazz, said, can you pick me up some strings? And we didn't know what he wanted, so we just got what I use, which is 10 to 52s. He does like 10 to 52s, but it does require an intonation change, because that means the lower three strings, instead of being up to 46 thousandths of an inch, it's 52 thousandths of an inch. So that's what the gauge, the low E is. But the top three strings are same as a 10 to 46, so it's just a heavier bottom. Giggly. So that's why the intonation probably needs adjusting. Now, one thing I did notice is that the saddles and all that are quite stiff to move. In fact, the saddle sort of tilted to one side as I tried to adjust intonation. So I'm going to put a little drop of oil just on these little screws in there, just to give it a bit more movement and to protect it from rust. I'm going to do the same thing with some of the lubricant like Vaseline in the nut slots, just to make sure that the strings can slide through and not cause any friction. Multi-purpose electronic spray. You can clean potentiometers with this, you can clean jack sockets with this, you can lubricate things what need to be lubricated with this, such as saddles, and it won't mess up your electronics like WD-40 would, which I did by accident once because the cans look the same and they're not the same, so don't do that. That's how you knacker pots. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move close so you can actually see, is I'm going to put a tiny dab there. I mean, just tiny drips, because as I do it, tiny bits drip out the end. So just put tiny bits of oil in there, work its way into the thread, and they won't just evaporate or dissipate, although the alcohol in this does, which is what makes it great for cleaning electronics. And now I'll clean off the excess. And let's just work its way into the all the little grooves there, and just protect it from rust and corrosion and all that. Might give it a wipe under the strings as well, to be fair, it's pretty grim. Looks a bit nicer, doesn't it? Don't know what these marks are, doesn't feel like. Might be wear, can't tell. But there you go. And now I'm going to do the nut. Do this one so you can see. Slacken off the string, take it out the nut. I've got some regular lip balm, but lip balm or anything with Vaseline in it will do fine. And then you take the small, well, I use the small end. Take a screwdriver, you dig it in, take a tiny bit like that, and you just pop it in the nut slot like that. And any you don't use, you can just rub on your finger and mash it in there. And any you don't use, you can just carry on to the next slot. And don't be afraid to pick up some more if you feel like you should pick up some more. But it's a little bit dab, and then put the string in the slot. And it'll just work it in there, and it should lubricate the string in the nut slot and help keep things in tune. And remember, you slackened off the strings to do this, so when you tune it again, it's going to pull through the nut and it's going to be nicely distributed. There we go, it's enough. And there we have it. So the saddles are lubricated, the nuts lubricated, the tuners tightened, the truss rod is very slightly loosened, and to be fair, then I loosened it again. Jack socket's been repaired, and the intonation's been set. So let's see how it sounds. Yep, the jack socket feels a lot more secure than it did before. To be fair, bending of the jack socket can weaken it, but as a short-term solution it works really well. If you've got high quality parts stock like Switchcraft, you probably shouldn't have an issue with it bending anyway. So there you have it, fixing Steve from Grace's guitar. It's kind of a special edition this week, seeing as it features a band's guitar. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. I hope Steve's happy with this. I just tried to make it more reliable and not tweak too much because he says he really likes it as it is. So I've just tried to fix things and shore things up for the future. So that was me sprucing up Steve's guitar for him. If you want to check out Graves, check in the description. They're a great band, and I'm not just saying that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. If you've got any questions, leave them down in the comments. Give me a like or subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. So, until then, bye.
Bye!